Alright guys and girls, welcome to another episode of Astral Auto Repairs. Can you dig it? Alright, check it out. Today we got a 2005 Chevy Impala, and what I'm going to do, and Civvy is going to do, is show you how to replace the rear brake pads and rotors. Alright, coming up on Astral Auto Repairs. This channel is a member of the Astral Stars, which means we have a zero-tolerance policy against the harassment of others. Anybody who violates that policy will be banned. For further information, please visit www.theastralstars.com. Alright guys, first things first, safety. If you're not going to pay attention to safety, then don't even worry about watching this video. Take your butt somewhere else, because I don't need you. Safety is number one. Get the vehicle jacked up, and I'm using a hydraulic jack, and I'm jacking it right there at the center frame right there, and we got our jack stands into place. And you notice that we're on dirt, and I always told you guys, if you're on dirt, you make sure you put a 2x4 or some kind of piece of wood to serve as a base for that jack stand, or it will sink into the ground and crush you. You never know, somebody might get up under there, I don't know why, but somebody might get up under there doing some brakes, I don't know, and the car will fall on them. Alright, so that is number one. Alright, we'll be right back. Alright guys, first of all, your tires are held on first by some hubcaps, and these are not lugs right here. These are actually plastic caps. So I got my impact driver, and you want to get a 19mm or 3/4 inch socket, and these things come out, just loosen up, take your hubcap off. Alright, let's get both wheels and we'll be right back. Alright guys, the next thing we do, you got 5 lugs. These lugs are 19mm or 3/4. Preferably use the 19mm. I'm using a 19mm deep with my impact gun. We're going to go ahead and get all of them off, take the other side off as well. Alright, we'll be right back. Alright guys, the next thing you want to do, this method is called, we use the Timmy towel. What you got to do is take the cap off to the master cylinder, because we're about to push the pistons back. And if you push the pistons back with this cap on it, there's a good chance you can damage that master cylinder. Alright, the next thing we'll do is take your Timmy towel and you want to stick it right there. Because what happens is, as we push the pistons back on the caliper, which I'm about to show you, that fluid is going to rise up and the paper towel will soak that fluid up instead of that fluid spinning, spilling everywhere, and maybe causing a fire. And you don't want to use any kind of rag or plastic, because if you do that, it will not let the fluid come out of here. It'll be just like a cap, and it'll be the same thing. It'll mess that master cylinder up. Alright, let's get in the back and we'll be right back. Alright guys, the next thing you're going to do, you're going to need a 14mm socket 3/8 drive and a 3/8 drive ratchet. What we're going to do is take the caliper off. The caliper is held on by 2 14mm bolts right there. And what you're going to do, get your ratchet in there, and the good little trick is to try to just take your hand and you're going to hit it and pop it loose. Just like that. Go to the bottom one. Pop that loose. And let's get both of those bolts out. We'll be right back. Alright guys, we got both bolts out. Let's take them out slowly. Take a look at them and check that out. Notice the bottom one will have a little bushing on that. So you want to make sure we put that back in the same spot. So the one with the bushing goes to the bottom. The next thing you do is take your caliper, work it off like that, turn your caliper on the upside, because now this is the piston right here that we have to push back into the caliper. Because if you try to put your brake pads on now, you put your new brake pads on, it will not go over the rotor. So what you want to do now is, here's your old brake pads. Just pull one of those, pop them right out, place it just like that, and you want to get yourself a C-clamp. You want to take the C-clamp, put it over the caliper like this, tighten down, and I want you to pay attention to the piston as I turn clockwise, and you watch that piston slowly goes in to the caliper. You want to keep going till it stops. All right, we'll be right back. All right, guys, we got that done. Remove our old brake pad. Now, you do not want to let your caliper dangle and hang down here because you can do damage to that inside of this brake hose. So what you want to do is get you a mechanic's wire or a piece of wire or anything, a rope or not no string, but something strong. You got your spring right here, your coil spring. You want to take one end and wrap it up to there, and the other end, just put it right into one of the mounting holes and tie that up and keep that out of the way. All right, we'll be right back. All right, guys, the next thing we gotta do, we got 2 bolts holding in our caliper bracket. What you're gonna need is a 13mm shallow socket. You got 1 bolt right here and the other one right up here. So you're gonna take your 13mm shallow and do the same little trick. Hit the ratchet, break that loose, and then come up and do that one. All right, let's get those 2 bolts out and we'll be right back. All right, guys, we got both bolts out. Here they go. Both bolts are the same length, so we're good to go with that. Now, your caliper bracket will just slide right out just like that. Let's set that down. And being that we're going to be replacing the rotor now, you just take the rotor and take that off just like that and set that to the side. All right, let's take this to the back of the truck so we can prepare this with the new brake pads and everything else. All right, we'll be right back. All right, guys, we are ready to get this cleaned up. The brake pads you get, 2 things. Make sure you have the new clips, the slide pins, because these help the brake pads slide. And you want to make sure your brake pads has anti-squeal shims in the back. Those shims right there. Because if you don't, and if it don't have that, there's a good chance you can step on your brakes and these things will still squeal, even though you have brand new brakes. All right, so let's take this thing apart. First of all, we have our outboard pad right here, and we'll just pop that out. And that has a wear sensor on it. So we want to make sure we line up the new brake pad with the same side. And then we pop out the inboard, which has no wear sensor on it, and we match up that one with that. Now, on these clips, let me pop one of these out. First of all, before we pop those out, we want to take a notice of how they look. And you notice it's got this little flap right here, this little tab. Here's like one of the new ones. And we notice that's facing outward on both sides. So we know how that goes. So let's just pop this out. Now, your brake pads go right into here like that, and it slides back and forth. All that rust and buildup on it, that stops that brake pad from sliding, which will cause your rotors to heat up, and then when you step on the brakes, the car starts shaking. And that's exactly what's wrong with this vehicle. So, we tipped it out. Now again, over this side, that's all you have to do is pop those out. Now, before we put the new ones in, what you want to do is take your wire brush, and you want to go ahead and clean all this up. So let's get that done and we'll be right back. Alright guys, the reason why I did that was because when you set your new brake pad, your brake shims in there, the clips, you want to make sure that thing goes flush all the way down. You do not want to give this thing any reason for that brake pad to hang up in there. Alright, so let's take our first one. Our tab, we know, goes up and out. And you see that little 2 grooves inside there? They set right on those right there. So you want to set those up there and push it into place. Perfect. Let's get the other side. Same thing. Push it into place. And that is done. Alright, the next method we're going to do, guys, we're going to lubricate the slides right here so the brake pads can slide, and we use a method called the 007. You guys know what that means. What that means is, now check it out. What I used to do before, I used to take some anti-seize or some lubricant, take my finger and put it around there and do that. I mean, it becomes so messy. So one of our subscribers, who's been our subscribers, I think he was one of our first subscribers, he said, Tim, don't do that. Go to right.
Nabbit.
Yeah, dang it. I guess it bothered him.
It grossed him out.
Yeah. He said, go get you a box of Q-tips. So that's what I did. And he said, put the anti-seize or the lubricant on the Q-tip. If you get the bottle open, put it on the Q-tips and use the Q-tip to lubricate where the brake pad slides at. You want to check him out below. When is Lane gonna put some videos, repair videos up? Check his channel out, Manic Mechanic 007. Check him out. Tell him to put some videos up. All right, so let's lubricate all 4 points, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, that's done. That is looking great. Man, this is good. All right, the next thing we do is put our brake pads in place. Let's tilt this to the side. Now, our brake pads have a little opening groove right there that's gonna slide right over each of those grooves. So what you wanna do is take your brake pad. Now, the bottom of these clips acts like springs.
Boing.
So what you want to do is put your brake pad in, use those, push down on those springs and push them into the grooves. So we're going to get this lined up right here. Push down and into the groove. Over here, the same thing. And that side is set. Now, let's do our other side. Into the groove, down into the groove. Great, look at that. Now let's get this and our new rotor, and I'll meet you over back at the car. We'll be right back. All right, guys, we got our brand new rotor. Let's put our rotor on. Now, to make this installation easy, well, actually this one's staying in place, but sometimes what you want to do is get you one of the old lug nuts, put it on, tighten it up, just keep the rotor steady so you can put everything together. Now the next thing you want to do is we're going to do the method on with the 007 again, and what we're going to do is lubricate our slide pins. And here's our one with the bushing on it, and that's the bottom one. Just a thin coat. We'll make sure these things slide. Okay. And get that out of the way. And let's take our caliper bracket. And what we're going to do is slowly lower it down over the rotor. Great. Take one of the caliper bracket bolts up here, and you want to just start that in by a couple threads. You got to move it around a little bit to get it lined up. Great. Now, reach around here and get the bottom one. That is great. Alright, next thing we're going to do is grab our 13mm shallow socket with our ratchet, and we're going to go and bring both of those in. Just bring them in until it stops. And then I'm going to show you how we're going to tighten these up. Alright, we'll be right back. Alright guys, when you go to tighten these up, again, what you do is go till it stops, and then tighten up just a little bit more. That's it. That's all you have to do. Alright, then you're going to take your fingers, bring both brake pads in until they touch the rotor. That's going to make it easier for you to set the caliper on. Speaking of the caliper, let's go up in here, take our caliper off. And this next part, guys, is very important. Make sure this hose is not twisted and try to force that caliper on. Just let the caliper loose and it'll go back into place like it's supposed to. Bring it over the brake pads. And these boots right here, you're going to have to push these boots in a little bit. Bring it over. And let's get our one at the top. And that's the one without the little bushing. Get that in there. Start by a couple threads. so you know it's not cross-threaded. And then going down on the last one, bottom one, again, see if you can see it, I'm hitting the boot. So you gotta hold the boot in, bring it down, get that bolt in, and turn it by a couple threads. All right, and then we're gonna grab our 14mm shallow socket, and we're gonna bring both these bolts in till it stops. All right, let's get that done, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, you put your bolt in, you tighten up till it stops, and once it stops, you're just gonna turn it just a little bit more. That's it. Pop it off. Let's get the bottom one done, and once you deal with that, get my impact with a 19mm. Take this rotor off, take this bolt off now, and we can get ready to put on our tire. So let me tighten up that bottom bolt, and we'll be right back because I need to show you a trick, not a trick, but a nice tip for putting this tire on. All right, we'll be right back. Okay. All right, guys, we got the tire on. Now, usually a lot of guys, what they do when they tighten the tire up, they'll start from like one of them, and then they work their way around. Or they go the opposite way. You do not want to do that, just in case there's some rust buildup somewhere on the rotor or somewhere on the back of the rim. What you want to do is try to tighten this thing down evenly, because if not, when you go down the road, the car's going to shake, and it's going to be something as simple as that. So when you tighten these up, first you want to do is bring one in just to get the tire stable. Then you want to do it in a cross pattern. 1, skip. 2, skip. 3, skip. 4, skip. And number 5. Then the tire is on solid. Great. The next thing you want to do is grab your hubcap, and you got your tire valve, your valve stem right here. On your hubcap, you're going to have a little opening. Notice how it's different from everywhere else on the hubcap. That's got to line up with that tire valve stem. Put that on. Do not use your impact gun to tighten these up. These are plastic. Just take your hand and turn them in and tighten them up with your hand. That's all you got to do. All right, so let's tighten those up, and then we're going to show you a little, we got to go back up to the Timmy towel and check how that looks. All right, we'll be right back. All right, guys, check out the Timmy towel. It did its job. As we push that piston back, the fluid backs back up through the system and comes back up through the master cylinder. And look at it, not a drop of brake fluid around there spilling anywhere. We take it up, look at it, soaked it right up. Put it in a plastic bag and get us a new one. Get the new one, stick it in there, and then we move on to the passenger side, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, now that you're familiarized with the other side, this side is going to go really quick. 14mm shallow. Let's take off the 2 bolts holding in our caliper. Let's get those off, and then we're going to flip the caliper and hang it right up here. All right, let's get those bolts out, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, we got our bolts. Take out the bottom one. The bottom one has that little shim, that little rubber seal up there. Now, check this out, guys. Here's a little trick. If you were just doing the brakes on this vehicle, leave the top one in. What you would do is take the caliper and swing it back just like that. Change your brake pads, push that back, and done, without even loosening up that bolt. But we're changing the rotor, so we got no choice. So let's pop that top one out, take our caliper, bring it up to the side, take one of our old brake pads, doesn't matter which way you put it, get our C-clamp. Now we're going to push this piston back just like we did the other side. And once we're done with that, we got our mechanics wire. We're going to tie it up to the coil spring and keep that out of the way. All right, let's get that taken care of, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, now we're ready to take off our caliper bracket. And again, there is 2 13mm bolts back here. One right here. And then down here is the other one. All right, let's get those off. And you can see our bracket is already loose. So what we're going to do, get these bolts out, and let's bring this bracket to the back of the truck. We'll be right back. All right, we're at the back of the truck. One brake pad, the other one slides out. 2, the clips, remember how they're faced, little tabs facing out like that. So pop those off. We don't need those no more. Now, let's go over there, clean these up, and then install our new ones. All right, let's get that done, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, let's get our clips. Put that one on. Very important to make sure you get these clips in right. Now we go with the 007. Let's go ahead and lubricate all 4 contacts. All right, we'll be right back. All right, guys, let's get our new brake pads. And this side is the one with the wear sensor. Remember, put them in. You want to push that tab, push the brake pad down on that, and then in. Push it up there, bring it down. Bring that, dang it, the thing's so lubricated now.
So
dang
007?
It. Yeah, dang it, that 007. All right, the other one. All right, let's get the other one in. And be very careful not to get any kind of lubricant on the pads on the inside. So let's get this one in, and then we're going to meet you back over at the car with the new rotor. All right, we'll be right back. All right, we are here. All right, all right, let's get our rotor on. Get one of the lug nuts. Our impact with a 19 millimeter. Just to keep that in place. Now, we get one of our caliper bracket bolts. And let's get this, hold this in place. We lower it down over. The rotor goes between those two. Oops, this one should be out a little bit more. All right. Lower it down. Get our caliper bolt. The top one, because it's easier to get to the top one first. Get to the top one. Turn the bolt in by a couple threads, and that way that one's lined up. Then you get your bottom one, and you start that in by a couple threads. That is great. The next thing you want to do is take your 13 millimeter socket with your 3/8 drive ratchet, and we're going to go ahead and tighten up both of these bolts. All right, so let's tighten them up, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, what we do, again, go till it's tight, and then just a little bit more. And these are tight. All right, the next thing you want to do, take your brake pads, squeeze them in, make sure they touching the rotor. Get your caliper. Make sure that the hose is not bent up. Take your pre-lubricated bolts, because I already did it. And what you want to do is bring the caliper over the brake pads. And you got your boot up here. Push that boot in. Push the caliper over it. And this is the one without, this bolt is the one without the bushing on it. So what we want to do is get that in there. Start it off by a couple threads and make sure, and see, that didn't feel right, so I just took it out. I want to make sure that this thing is not binding up. There we go. See, now I turned that about a couple threads and it got hung up, so I knew I was cross-threaded. So the next thing I'm gonna do is at the bottom, I gotta squeeze the boot in, get the caliper down, get our bottom bolt, put that in, turn that by a couple threads to make sure it's not cross-threaded, and that is great. Next thing we're gonna do is take our 14 millimeter shallow socket. You go till it stops, and then a little bit more. All right, so let's get these tightened up, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, we got that tightened up. That is great. And also, you want to check this out. You want to make sure you can take your caliper and do this. Slide that caliper back and forth. And you know that thing ain't gonna slide great. And the brake pads are lubricated with the 007. Yeah, buddy. And those are great too. All right, let's go in the front and check out the Timmy towel and some very important information before you drive the car. We'll be right back. All right, guys. Yeah, Oh, it just soaked up just a little bit. Great. All right, let's put this in the bag. Put the cap on it. Now this part, guys, is very important. You're gonna have to pump the brake pedals up, because as you step on the brakes, you're gonna push those pistons back out that we push forward. The fluid's gonna come back through down here, and the pistons on the caliper is gonna come out, push out. So when you first push them down, being that there's all that gap between there, it's gonna push out, and your brake pedal is gonna go to the floor. And if you go to get in this car right now and try to start it, you're gonna hurt somebody, seriously hurt somebody. So let me show you what I'm talking about. You just finished your brake job. You did a great job. You followed Astral's video, and everything came out good. But then you shut the video off. You don't get to this point, then you're in trouble. You start the car up. You put on your foot in on the brake just a little bit. Put it in gear. But when you go to pull out and stop, this is what happens. Your brake pedal goes right to the floor. That's because what you got to do is pump it up. Now look at it. Now the brake pedal is good. Now you can go ahead about your business. All right? Everything is done. And once you get this pumped up, you go out here and you check your brake fluid. The brake fluid is good. It's full. And if you need to add brake fluid, look on your cap or on your master cylinder reservoir, and it's going to tell you what kind of brake fluid to use. And this one is .3. All right, guys. If you follow this video, I am so proud of you. Yeah, boy, you are done. All right, we'll be right back.
All right, so that's how you do rear brake pads and rotors on a 2005 Chevy Impala. If you guys have any comments or questions, you can post it below in the comment section, or you can email Timmy at tim@astralautorepairs.com. Hope you paid attention. If not, watch it again. This is Sylvia from Astral Auto Repairs. If we can't repair it, nobody can. See you next time.